Not even in their wildest nightmares could the Zalari have imagined this day would come. Exactly 100 years after their ancestors denied a small loan to a struggling young world called Earth, a human walked once again into the towering halls of the Galactic Central Bank. The bank was built on the planet Orith Prime, a fortress of shimmering glass and cold steel that stretched into the clouds. Billions of credits flowed through its systems every second, and its rules shaped economies across 5 galaxies. The Zalari controlled it all. They were small, green-skinned beings known for their arrogance and precision. In their eyes, humans were impulsive, emotional creatures who didn't belong in the upper tiers of galactic finance. Director Zyrax, the chief loan officer, hovered behind his curved desk on a sleek anti-gravity disc. His short body was no taller than a human's head, but his presence filled the room. His skin darkened with irritation as the doors slid open and the human ambassador entered. Calm, tall, and confident. The human's name was Ambassador Hale Donovan. His brown eyes reflected the light of the galaxy outside the window. His suit was neat, formal, and carried the quiet power of someone who didn't need to prove anything. When he smiled, it wasn't out of arrogance. It was the smile of someone who already knew how the story would end. Zyrax squinted suspiciously. Ambassador Donovan, is it? He began, his voice sharp and nasal. I can't imagine what brings Earth crawling back to the Galactic Bank after a full century of silence. Come to beg for another loan, perhaps. The human chuckled softly. A loan? No, Director. We're past that now. Zyrax's small mouth twisted. Oh, don't tell me your little planet has learned how to manage its finances. The last time you were here, your representatives couldn't even afford the consultation fee. Hale leaned back, still calm. Things change, he said simply. Time moves forward. So do we. The director's hover disc bobbed as he leaned closer, glaring up at the man towering above him. I run the most powerful financial institution in 5-star systems, he hissed. Your kind might have discovered warp travel, but that doesn't make you rich. Whatever proposal you brought, save your breath. The answer will be the same as it was 100 years ago. No. The human's lips curved into a faint grin. You misunderstand, Director Zyrax. I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm here to inform you. Inform me? Zyrax blinked. Of what exactly? That Earth, Hale said, his voice soft but steady, owns this institution now. For a moment, silence fell so thick it could be felt. The hum of the anti-gravity engine beneath Zyrax trembled. The alien blinked twice, as if waiting for a punchline that didn't come. I beg your pardon? Zyrax said finally, his tone trembling with disbelief. You heard me, the ambassador said, opening a sleek black case and placing it gently on the desk. The Galactic Banking Consortium, all its branches, shares, and controlling interests, now belong to Earth. The director's green skin paled. Impossible, he whispered. You expect me to believe that a backwater world like yours somehow bought this bank? Hale smiled again, this time wider, sharper. It's amazing what one can't afford after a century of progress. You should visit Earth sometime. We have cities now that make Orith Prime look like a scrapyard. Zyrax floated back an inch, tiny hands clutching the edge of his desk. Proof, he demanded, voice shaking. You will show me proof. The human ambassador nodded politely and tapped the black case. It opened with a quiet hiss. Inside were holographic seals glowing in dozens of colors, the signatures of emperors, technocrats, and council chancellors. As the holograms flickered to life above the desk, Zyrax's heart sank. Each mark was real, each authorization genuine. One after another, names of ancient powers scrolled past, all confirming the same transaction. Ownership transferred to Earth. This, Zyrax muttered, his throat dry. This cannot be. Hale's expression softened, almost kindly. A century ago, you refused to lend us a few thousand credits. Today, we could buy every planet in your sector and still have change left over. Zyrax's hover disc dipped as he struggled to breathe. The weight of what he'd just heard pressed down on him like the gravity of a collapsing star. Humanity had returned to the galaxy's highest seat of power. And this time, they hadn't come to beg. they had come to own. The silence inside the office was almost alive. Zyrax's hover disk hummed softly, the only sound in the grand chamber that overlooked a sea of glittering city lights. Outside, Orith Prime's skyline blazed with ships and satellites. Yet in that moment, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. Zyrax's throat clicked dryly as he spoke. You expect me to believe that your species, a species that once begged for 1,000 credits, now owns the bank? The very heart of galactic finance. Ambassador Hale Donovan gave a calm smile. Believe what you want, Director. The facts don't change. He pressed a button on the metallic briefcase before him. A soft hum filled the room as streams of light projected upward, forming shimmering holographic sigils that spun slowly in the air. Signatures from alien empires, each one glowing with their unique spectrum. Zyrax floated closer, squinting at them, and his confidence began to fracture. The swirling organic marks of the Varn monarchs, the geometric runes of the Solith technocracy, and the crimson insignia of the Galactic Council, all unmistakably authentic. He'd seen thousands of forgeries in his lifetime, but these were real. What is this? He whispered, voice trembling. Proof, said Hale simply. The Varn Empire sold their 9% stake 2 years ago. The Solith technocracy followed, 41%, if I recall correctly. And the Galactic Council transferred the rest in recognition of Earth's aid during the plague years. Zyrax's pupils shrank to pinpoints. Lies. They would never sell their interests. The Solith value stability more than life itself. The human reached inside his coat and pulled out a small, clear crystal, smooth, multifaceted, glowing faintly with inner light. This, he said, placing it on the desk, is the Solith certificate of ownership, verified and authenticated. Zyrax grabbed it with both hands, nearly falling off his hover disk. He turned it over, scanned it with his wrist device, and watched as lines of data poured across his screen. Verification codes, encrypted transfer logs, signatures, all flawless. It's genuine, Zyrax muttered weakly. By the stars, it's real. The ambassador nodded, his tone polite but edged with quiet satisfaction. They needed liquidity. We offered a better deal. Simple business, Director. Zyrax's head spun. The Solith were legends, a civilization of logic and order. For them to sell was unthinkable. And yet here it was undeniable. He backed away, his disc wobbling. Even if that's true, he said, try to recover his composure. You still don't have control. The Council alone holds nearly half of all remaining shares. Hale's expression didn't change. He set another device on the desk, a sleek silver tablet. With a tap, a new projection filled the office, a recording of the Galactic Chancellor himself, standing in a grand hall with Earth's flag behind him. Citizens of the galaxy, the Chancellor's voice boomed through the air. In recognition of humanity's unmatched assistance during the dark years of the plague, the Galactic Council hereby transfers our collective holdings, 47%, to Earth's government. Effective immediately. Zyrax's jaw fell open. He could barely breathe. The Chancellor's scaled hand pressed his seal into the digital parchment, the document locking with a flash of blue light. The human's voice cut through the silence. That brings Earth's total ownership to 97%. We bought the remaining shares from minor investors on the open market. I could provide receipts if you'd like. Zyrax's hover disk faltered. He floated lower, his mind collapsing under the weight of the revelation. For generations, his people had lived in the shadow of this institution. It was their pride, their legacy, their survival. And now, it belonged to the same species they once laughed out of the building. His voice was barely a whisper. Do you understand what this means? What you've done? Hale's smile faded. For a brief moment, there was something deeper in his eyes. Not arrogance, but purpose. Yes, Director. Perfectly. It means humanity no longer takes orders. We write them. He closed the briefcase with a soft click. The sound echoed like thunder. Outside, a fleet of human ships passed silently over Orith Prime's skyline, their insignias glowing like stars. For the first time in history, the galaxy's bankers worked for Earth. And for the Zalari, the age of control was over. The weight of silence crushed the room. Director Zyrax floated motionless, his hover disk drifting in small, uncertain circles. For a creature who once controlled trillions of credits with the flick of a stylus, he now looked utterly lost, like a child stranded among titans. He finally found his voice. Ambassador Donovan, do you realize what this institution means to my people? 4 generations, the Zalari have lived and worked here. This bank isn't just a business. It's our home, our history, our last refuge. When our original world was consumed by its dying star, this planet became our sanctuary. The human regarded him quietly. There was no mockery in his gaze, only understanding. I know, Director, Hale said softly. That's why we took special care when completing the acquisition. Acquisition, Zyrax repeated, his voice trembling. Hale reached once again into his case and placed a single scroll-like holographic document on the desk. It shimmered with golden light, covered in seals from the Galactic Council, the Planetary Authority, and the Imperial Land Office. What is that? Zyrax demanded. Hale similet faintly. The planetary deed. Zyrax blinked. Date? To what? To Orth Prime, Hale said. Earth purchased the planet. For several seconds, Zyrax's mind refused to process the words. The hover disk dipped violently, almost throwing him off as his breathing quickened. You bought the planet? Indeed, Hale replied, his tone calm, businesslike. All land rights, subterranean mining permits, airspace authority, and orbital jurisdiction now belong to Earth. Everything from the molten core to the outer stratosphere. Zyrax gaped at him. You can't do that. This world houses millions of Zalari citizens. You can't just buy the ground under their feet. The human raised an eyebrow. We didn't force anyone, Director. The Council voted unanimously. In return, Earth forgave over 1 trillion credits of debt owed during the last galactic recession. Your government agreed to the sale to prevent economic collapse. Zyrax's green skin turned pale gray. No, this can't be. Hale stood, the room's lights reflecting off his polished shoes as he approached the window. From this height, they could see the city stretching endlessly, towers of glass, maglev rails, and ships streaking through the atmosphere. You know, he said softly, a century ago, humanity would have killed for a chance to be part of this skyline. But now, he turned, his expression unreadable. Now we own it. Zyrax felt a pressure in his chest, something cold and heavy. Every office, every data tower, every transport hub, all belonged to Earth now. Even the soil beneath the foundations of his people's homes was no longer theirs. The human diplomat's voice broke the silence. We aren't here to destroy, Director. We're here to build. When Earth was denied that first loan, we learned something important. That nobody gives power to the weak. You have to take it. So we did. Zyrax wanted to argue, to scream, to fight, but there was nothing left to defend. The deed on the desk shimmered in confirmation of the unthinkable. Finally, he whispered, "What happens to us now?" Hale regarded him for a moment, then smiled kindly. "That depends, Director. We'd like your help managing our new acquisition. You and your people know this system better than anyone. Work with us, and the Zalari will thrive under Earth's banner. Refuse," he let the word hang in the air, "and the galaxy will move on without you." Zyrax stared at him, this calm, unshaken human who spoke with the authority of empires. For the first time in his life, the Director understood fear not as a threat, but as realization. The humans had done what no species in history had ever managed. They hadn't conquered the galaxy with armies or weapons. They bought it, and the Zalari were now standing on ground that no longer belonged to them. Director Zyrax floated silently beside the towering human as they exited his grand office. The marble corridors of the Galactic Bank stretched endlessly before them, each hallway gleaming with silver light, every wall lined with hollow panels displaying graphs, trade routes, and stock movements. Thousands of Zalari employees buzzed through the corridors on their hover disks, unaware that every credit they handled now belonged to Earth. Zyrax's mind was chaos. His species' home, their purpose, their pride, gone, traded away in a deal his people hadn't even understood. But despair quickly hardened into something colder, resolve. If he couldn't reverse what had been done, maybe he could destroy its value. He turned to the human walking calmly beside him. Ambassador Donovan, I imagine you'd like to see the heart of the bank. Our financial records division, perhaps? Of course. I always like to know what I've bought. Zyrax forced a grin, concealing the bitterness boiling inside him. Excellent. Right this way. As they moved through the corridors, whispers spread among the staff. Tiny green heads turned to stare. It was rare to see a human here, rarer still to see one escorted by the bank's director. Zyrax caught snatches of conversation. Is that a human? What's it doing here? Don't tell me they're trying for another loan. Huh, maybe they finally saved enough for the application fee. Their laughter echoed behind them. Zyrax winced. They didn't know. They couldn't know. Hale only chuckled, seemingly unfazed. Your people have a sense of humor. I like that. Yes, Zyrax muttered, his voice tight. They're very spirited. They reached a tall archway embossed with golden script. Financial records and debt management. The doors opened with a hiss. Inside, hundreds of Zalari analysts hovered over holographic consoles. Light filled the air like mist, streams of data, currency flows, and coded transmissions. The faint clicking of calculation devices filled the space like rain. Zyrax floated to the center, raising his small hands for attention. Everyone, he called. This is Ambassador Hale Donovan of Earth. He's here on official business. The chatter stopped. Dozens of wide eyes blinked at the human giant who now towered over their workspace. From the back of the room, a young analyst named Kiri spoke up. Another loan request, Director? Should I bring out the old rejection letter? It's still framed in the archives. Laughter rippled through the room. Even the senior clerks chuckled. Hale laughed with them, a deep, warm sound that caught Zyrax off guard. That's good, he said. I admire a people who can joke about history. Zyrax forced a tight smile. Inside, he was screaming. Fools! Stop before you doom us all. Perhaps, Hale continued pleasantly, you could show me one of your more complicated accounts. Something that demonstrates your institution's finest work. Zyrax saw his opportunity. Yes, he thought. Let's see how much this human enjoys untangling a financial nightmare. Of course, he said smoothly. Analyst Varen, bring up the Tavari debt file. Varen blinked. Sir, you mean that file? Yes, Zyrax insisted. Show the ambassador. Moments later, a massive holographic display shimmered to life. Endless numbers scrolled across it, each line representing centuries of unpaid loans, penalties, and compounded interest. Zyrax gestured proudly. The Tavari Empire. 300 years of outstanding debt. They borrowed enough to fund 10 wars and repaid exactly nothing. Their leadership declared bankruptcy 3 times. Each time they returned, borrowed more, and defaulted again. Even their moons are collateral. He floated closer to the human, smirking slightly. So, Ambassador, this is what you've bought, a financial black hole. To his surprise, Hale didn't look worried. He examined the display with calm curiosity. How much do they owe? 1.4 quadrillion credits, Zyrax said with grim satisfaction. Plus penalty. Hale visted softly. That's quite a sum. Then, to Zyrax's horror, the human turned to one of the analysts. Do you have their current contact frequency? Varen blinked. Of course, but why? Patch it through, Hale said. I like a word with their leader. Zyrax almost fell off his disc. You can't be serious. The Davari haven't answered official transmissions in decades. They'll mock you, but it was too late. The hollow screen flared, connecting to a distant planet. Static flickered, and then the image of a massive alien appeared. Crimson-skinned, four-armed, and smiling with sharp, predatory teeth. Ambassador Hale Donovan, the creature boomed, grinning. You old friend. I still have that Terran whiskey you sent me last cycle. Zyrax's heart froze. They know each other? General Corthell, Hale said warmly. Good to see you. Listen, small matter. Seems your government owes my people a bit of money. The alien threw back his head and laughed thunderously. Ah yes, the bank's old numbers. No one ever came to collect. Well, Hale said with a grin, we own the bank now. For a moment, the general stared, and then began typing furiously on a console. Then the debt is yours, my friend, and we pay our debts to friends. Check your system in 5 minutes. The call ended. Across the room, the data displays exploded into life. Streams of numbers updated rapidly, shifting from red to green. Accounts cleared. Balances restored. Varen gasped. Director, they just paid the full amount, with interest. Zyrax's hover disk spun wildly as he struggled to comprehend what had just happened. His brilliant plan, his trap, had collapsed spectacularly. The human smiled. Seems your records department works fine after all. And as the analyst stared in disbelief, Zyrax realized the unthinkable truth. Every move he made to embarrass the humans only made them stronger. The financial department was in chaos. Hollow screens flashed like lightning, streams of numbers cascading across every surface. The once red columns of debt now glowed a bright, impossible green. Paid. Settled. Verified. Zyrax floated aimlessly amid the chaos, his mind shattering under the weight of what he had just witnessed. What was supposed to be his triumph, his master plan to humiliate the human and expose the bank's flaws, had turned into a disaster of epic proportions. The Tavari, the most irresponsible borrowers in galactic history, had just paid off their entire balance. 3 centuries of unpaid loans wiped clean in a matter of minutes. Everywhere he looked, Zalari employees stared at their consoles in stunned disbelief. Whispered conversations rippled across the room. Did they really pay it all? That can't be right. Check the ledgers again. Noeders. It's all real. Every last credit. The hum of astonishment filled the air like static. Zyrax felt smaller than ever before. His hover disk sagged, its anti-gravity field flickering weakly as if even the machine shared his exhaustion. Hale Donovan stood calmly at the center of it all, hands clasped behind his back, observing the chaos with quiet amusement. You see, Director, he said lightly, sometimes a little goodwill goes further than 1,000 contracts. Zyrax spun toward him, voice cracking. Goodwill? You call this goodwill? They paid because of you, because they know you. You manipulated them. The human's eyes glinted. Manipulated? No, Director. We call it relationship capital, something your species never understood. Zyrax's mouth opened, but no words came. His carefully constructed world of profit margins and interest rates was crumbling, replaced by something far more dangerous, human charisma. The Tavari account was only the beginning. As the day went on, more alerts filled the screens. Entire debt systems shifted. The Krell Syndicate repaid centuries of mining fines. The Lyrans reinstated trade tariffs that had been frozen since the Plague era. Even the cold-blooded Zeth Collective, famous for ignoring all legal summons, suddenly cleared their balance sheets. Within hours, the Galactic Bank had achieved more financial recovery than it had in the last 50 years. Each update struck Zyrax like a physical blow. How are they doing this? He thought. How can one human undo centuries of stagnation? Finally, he couldn't hold it in anymore. Ambassador Donovan, he barked, his small body trembling. You've turned my bank into a circus. Do you even understand what you're doing? The economy, Hale interrupted gently, is thriving. Your balance sheets are cleaner than they've been in centuries. Tell me, Director, do you usually complain when things get better? Zyrax's jaw tightened. You don't understand. The Zalari built this institution from the ashes of our lost world. It's all we have left, and now it's yours. The human's expression softened. And that frightens you. Zyrax stared at him, speechless. Hale continued, his tone calm, but sharp as a scalpel. When you denied Earth alone, your ancestors believed we'd fade away. They thought humanity was a passing curiosity, loud, emotional, reckless. But you were wrong. We learned from you. We studied your systems, your laws, your greed. We learned how power truly works. And then, we use your own rules to surpass you. He stepped closer, his shadow falling across the trembling director. Now we don't need your approval. We don't need your charity. We are beyond the point of asking. The words hit like thunder. Zyrax could feel the gaze of every employee on him. Their director, the great protector of Zalari pride, reduced to silence. Then, slowly, the whispers began. Is it true? Earth owns everything now. I heard they bought the planet itself. If the humans run things, maybe that's not so bad. That last line stung the most. Zyrax turned sharply toward the speaker, a young clerk, but the expression on the clerk's face wasn't defiance. It was hope. The human turned toward the staff. We didn't come to enslave anyone, Hale said. We came to build a better system, one that rewards effort, not heritage. Some of the workers nodded hesitantly. Others looked uncertain. Zyrax's voice trembled as he whispered, You're replacing us from within. Hal assimilet faintly. No, director. I'm including you. But whether your people adapt or fade, that's up to you. The human turned toward the exit, signaling the end of their tour. As the doors closed behind him, Zyrax floated alone in the flickering light of the department. His empire of numbers was still standing, but it no longer belonged to him. He looked out over his workers, their faces illuminated by glowing data streams that now answered to human command. And in that silent, echoing chamber, Zyrax finally understood what defeat felt like. It wasn't the sound of battle. It was the quiet click of ownership transferring to someone else. Days turned into weeks, and the halls of the Galactic Bank no longer echoed with the confident chatter of the Zalari. The once proud clerks now whispered behind their terminals, unsure if their jobs still belonged to them. A new symbol, a silver-blue globe wrapped in a laurel, shimmered above the main atrium, replacing the centuries-old emblem of the Zalari Banking Consortium. It was the insignia of Earth. Zyrax watched from his office window as human engineers and diplomats moved through the corridors below, their tall silhouettes framed by the light of alien suns. They brought new technology, new systems, new rules, and to Zyrax's growing dread, new energy. Every department they touched ran smoother. Files that once took months to process now updated in seconds. Fraud rates dropped. Profit margins climbed. He had expected chaos. Instead, humanity was bringing order, their own kind of order. Ambassador Hale Donovan had become the quiet center of this transformation. He rarely raised his voice, yet every command he gave carried the weight of inevitability. When he spoke to the board, they listened. When he gave directives, departments restructured overnight. One morning, Zyrax was summoned to the top floor, the former High Council chamber, now renamed the Earth Directorate Office. He hesitated outside the gleaming doors before entering. Hale was standing beside a massive hollow display of the galaxy. Hundreds of trade routes glowed across the map like arteries of light. Do you know what this is, Director? The human asked without turning around. Zyrax floated closer, his disk humming softly. It's the interstellar credit grid. Hadisimidet. Not anymore. It's ours. He tapped the console, and the map shifted. The central hub of the network pulsed brightly, no longer on Orth Prime, but on Earth. Zyrax's voice faltered. You've rerouted the entire system. For your homeworld? Yes, Hale said simply. From now on, every transaction, every transfer, every credit in this galaxy will flow through human-managed servers. Efficient, transparent, secure. Control, Zyrax whispered. You've centralized control under Earth. Hale turned, his gaze steady. You call it control. We call it accountability. For too long, the galaxy let greed shape its future. We've just adjusted the compass. The director's fists clenched. You've taken our legacy and buried it under your flag. Hale's expression softened. No, Sedux. We're preserving it. You built the foundation. We're building what comes next. Zyrax wanted to argue, but the words caught in his throat. Behind the human, the map rotated slowly, displaying entire sectors, from the Varn systems to the Solith Reach, now marked with the emblem of Earth. He remembered when humanity was considered insignificant, a noisy young species from a small blue planet. And now, that same world had become the heartbeat of the galaxy's economy. Later that day, Zyrax wandered the trading floor. Humans worked alongside Zalari analysts, their laughter mixed with the hum of data streams. He overheard one conversation, a Zalari clerk explaining a profit algorithm to a young human intern. The human nodded, fascinated, taking notes. The scene was so ordinary and yet so alien. The realization hit him like cold air. They weren't invaders. They were collaborators. Patient, relentless collaborators who didn't conquer worlds with war, but with efficiency, trust, and time. That night, as the city lights shimmered beyond the glass towers, Zyrax opened his private terminal. He accessed the oldest archives, the original loan request Earth had made a century ago. The amount was laughably small, just 10,000 credits, enough for a single research vessel. He stared at it for a long time. The signature of Earth's early ambassador flickered faintly in blue light. He stared at it for a long time. The signature of Earth's early ambassador flickered faintly in blue light. Then he scrolled to the bottom. Next to application status, the words still glowed. Rejected. Zyrax sighed. We denied them a chance to rise, he murmured to himself. And they learned to fly without us. Behind him, a chime sounded, a message from Hale. Short. Direct. Director Zyrax. Board meeting tomorrow. I'd like you to chair it. Humanity may own the system, but we still value those who understand its roots. Zyrax read the message twice. Then, slowly, a strange feeling replaced the bitterness in his chest. Not acceptance, but respect. Maybe the humans weren't destroying the galaxy's order. Maybe they were reinventing it, the way only humans could. As dawn rose over Orith Prime, the new banking empire of Earth came fully alive, a network pulsing with trade, trust, and human ambition. And for the first time in a century, Zyrax didn't feel like the master of finance. He felt like a witness to the future. The boardroom of the Galactic Bank had never felt so quiet. The great circular chamber, once filled with the voices of hundreds of Zalari executives, now stood as a monument to change. The walls shimmered with new hollow banners, blue and silver, marked by Earth's emblem. Outside the panoramic window, dawn was breaking across Orith Prime, sunlight glinting off the endless towers of glass and steel that humans and Zalari now shared. Director Zyrax sat at the far end of the great table. Around him floated a mixture of species, humans, Zalari, and other galactic delegates. At the head stood Ambassador Hale Donovan, the man who had changed everything, the man whose world now owned this one. Let's begin, Hale said, his voice calm yet commanding. Today, we finalize the new charter of the Galactic Banking Consortium, one that serves all civilizations, not just a few. He touched the table, and a new holographic emblem appeared above them. The unified credit system of the Galactic Coalition, with the Earth insignia woven discreetly at its center. Zyrax stared at the glowing symbol. It was beautiful, simple, balanced, and undeniably human. For generations, his people had ruled this room through fear and profit. But the humans had done something different. They had replaced control with cooperation and greed with something dangerously powerful, hope. The ambassador turned toward him. Director Zyrax, he said, as the last original member of the Zalari Directorate, it's only fitting that you approve the final motion. Zyrax hesitated. His small green fingers hovered above the glowing pad. Around the table, eyes of a dozen species waited. He looked at Hale. You understand what this means, don't you? Once I sign this, the old galaxy is gone. The age of Zalari dominance, over. It's not over, Director. It's evolved. You built the system. We just reminded it what it was meant to be, a tool for growth, not greed. Zyrax studied the human's face for a long moment. In those brown eyes, he saw no mockery, no triumph, only quiet determination. the kind that had carried humanity from the dust of their small blue world to the heart of the galaxy itself. Finally, he pressed his palm to the pad. The table glowed bright white, sealing the new charter. A soft chime filled the air. The room erupted in applause. For the first time in his long career, Zyrax didn't feel superior. He felt proud to have witnessed something that would be remembered for millennia. Later, as the meeting ended and the others departed, he floated beside Hale near the window. The city below buzzed with life. Human engineers, Zalari clerks, alien traders, all working side by side under the same skyline. "You've changed the galaxy, Ambassador," Zyrax said quietly. "And not through conquest, not through force, just persistence." Hale's gaze followed a human cargo ship as it ascended into the clouds, its silver hull reflecting the morning light. "That's the thing about my species," he said softly. "We don't give up. When doors close, we build our own. When someone says we don't belong, we buy the house." Zyrax let out a small laugh, genuine this time. "I suppose you've earned your place among the stars." Hale turned to him. "Not among the stars, Director. With them." The words lingered in the air. From orbit, the planet Orith Prime shimmered like a jewel, its banking towers reflecting sunlight, its skies crisscrossed with trade ships, and at its core, a new alliance pulsing like a living heart. Humanity had done the impossible. They had turned rejection into resolve, humiliation into power, and a single denied loan into the foundation of a galactic empire built not on war, but on will. And as the human ambassador walked away, leaving Zyrax alone before the rising sun, one truth burned brighter than any star. The galaxy no longer feared humanity. It trusted them.